Hello guys. This is what if Naruto was neglected and was Uchiha. Let's begin with the story.
Showtime. Naruto said to himself as he walked through the main entrance of the academy and looked up to see a sign posted up on the wall that pointed the Chunin hopefuls in the right direction. Naruto arched an eyebrow at the rather obvious attempt to help the contestants in the exams, but nonetheless followed the sign up the steps to the second floor. Whatever Naruto was expecting, it was not a group of people staring at a door where two smug-looking shinobi were standing guard. Naruto stood there at the top step silently as he listened to shinobi from various countries complain about being denied entry. Naruto immediately recognized the two men guarding the room labeled as 301 from the number of times he had passed their booth. Sure, they were transformed into what Naruto assumed was their younger forms, but Naruto knew that as Izumo and Kotetsu, the village's eternal gate guards. Naruto watched as a genin from the leaf tried to force his way in only to be slugged in the jaw and kicked back towards his team, earning cries from the other shinobi who were getting nervous about their prospects of becoming Chunin. Naruto shook his head at the stupidity of the shinobi in front of him, if they could be called so. Are these people this stupid? I mean, it is barely an E-rank genjutsu they placed over the sign above the door. That, and we have only gone up one set of stairs at this point. Naruto thought incredulously as he stared at the protesting genin with a deadpan glare. Trying to save whatever brain cells he had left, Naruto forced his way through the group without saying a word and made it to the stairs to the third floor. Naruto did not spare a second glance to the converging of idiots on the second floor who deserved to be eliminated from this exam. Naruto had just missed a boy with green spandex and his team entering up the stairs he had just come from. Naruto walked up to the door to the real room 301 and slid open the door and took a few steps in letting the door slide shut. A wave of killer intent immediately tried to swallow Naruto up as he walked in alone. The genin in the room thought Naruto as an easy prey to be taken in this exam, however they had no idea how wrong they could be. Naruto shrugged off the weak killer intent since he had experienced much worse while training with Itachi and Mihawk. Naruto walked over to a table situated on the right side of the room. Naruto turned to his left to see a familiar group of shinobi glancing over at him with small smiles and one with indifference. Naruto recognized them as the blue-haired boy who he fought on the bridge and the fake hunter Nin as well. However, there was one Naruto did not recognize. The shinobi was wearing a black pinstriped dress shirt with a yellow tie, but Naruto could catch a glimpse of chain mesh underneath the guy's collar. The boy had blue hair much like Chojuro's, but also had yellow streaks running across the blue hair. Chojuro bowed slightly, which Naruto thought was weird. Hello again, Shinobi-san, it is nice to see you once again. I am afraid I forgot to get your name the last time we crossed Beyblades. Chojuro informed Naruto with a somewhat regretful tone in his voice since Naruto had provided a wonderful duel. My name is Chojuro, by the way. Chojuro said while extending his hand out for Naruto to take in a handshake. Naruto took the handshake since he respected Chojuro's skills with the sword. Naruto told Chojuro and by proxy the rest of the Kiri genin his name in return. Since Naruto only used his first name, they were blissfully unaware of Naruto's heritage. Naruto watched with slight amusement as Haku slid over to the bench of the table Naruto was sitting at. She kept getting closer but had yet to look at the young man in the eyes, which was only fueling said young man's amusement. Haku glanced to see Chojuro and her other teammate talking, so she turned back to face Naruto with a small smile. I was thinking on what you said on the bridge all that time ago, and I agree, trash like that doesn't deserve to live. I just wanted the chance to tell you that I admire your resolve. Haku tried to blurt out that last sentence as fast as she could. Naruto couldn't help but let out a small chuckle at Haku's nervous behavior around him, which only made the ice-release kunoichi a little self-conscious. Naruto turned to face Haku with a small foxy grin. It is so nice to meet a serious kunoichi. All of the kunoichi around here are more interested in their looks or love life. Naruto stated with a frown and a blank tone with a matching deadpan expression. Haku giggled at Naruto's deadpan expression, drawing the attention of the other two Kiri genin. Naruto just repeated what he said to Haku to the other two, getting chuckles from both Kiri Shinobi, while Naruto wondered why he didn't take the chance and go to Kiri. The boy in dress clothing looked at Naruto with a grin, almost as if he could sense Naruto's strength, or maybe he was just an idiot. "My name is Kakujio." The shinobi known as Kakujio introduced himself with a suave tone. Naruto wondered why he was named after the bishop piece in shogi. Then again, some people thought he was named after a ramen topping. Then something Naruto wasn't expecting happened. Naruto watched as a hand of yellow energy came out of his hand, and then he performed a small salute with the energy or aura hand. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the blatant display of Kakujio's abilities. There are only a few reasons to show your abilities so readily to an enemy shinobi. 1. He is an idiot, or 2. He is extremely cocky in his ability. Judging from the gleam in his eye when he showed the ability, it is the cocky option. What a fool it is, that arrogance that will lead to an early death or the death of those around him. Naruto shot Kakujio a grin of his own, effectively masking what he was thinking about the Kiri shinobi. Naruto continued to have a pleasant conversation with team from Kiri as the rest of the Konoha rookies made their presence known in the testing room. Team 7 had just entered the testing room and were greeted by the same treatment Naruto was greeted with about 10 minutes prior. As the wave of killer intent washed over them, Naomi and Narumi showed their discomfort by clenching their hands. Sasuke felt his heartbeat pick up, and Sakura tried to shield herself from the malicious intent by using Sasuke's body as a buffer. The tension was becoming too much for the Leaf Genin team and left them wishing for any kind of disturbance in the unrelenting killer intent of multiple Genin teams. Thankfully, someone was feeling kind today and gave them their much-needed distraction. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke groaned hearing the familiar shout from one of his most loyal fangirls, and as if on cue felt an extra weight on his left side. Praying silently for something else, Sasuke turned his gaze to the left slightly, where blonde hair filled his vision. It looks like Sasuke was not having as much luck as he would like. The room watched as Ino snuggled into the Uchiha side with growing sweat drops on the back of their heads, wondering how she became a kunoichi. A certain Pinkette had a large twitch on her brow ridge as she watched the Yamanaka heiress cozy up with her Sasuke. Ino pig. Sakura shouted at her rival and used her abnormal natural strength to pry Ino off of Sasuke like a leech. The two-leaf kunoichi, which was a stretch, were grinding their foreheads against the others and were shooting looks that could kill if such a thing was possible. Sasuke, who was hiding his embarrassment, slid away from the fangirls. The room grew a second sweat drop and wondered if all Konoha kunoichi were fangirls. While all of this was happening, one leaf kunoichi with a hairstyle resembling a panda was looking away in embarrassment. Haku was nodding, now understanding completely what Naruto was telling her earlier. Troublesome, it looks like you guys got roped into competing in these exams as well. Shikamaru said lazily as he and Shoji, who was eating from a bag of chips, joined Team 7 and their teammate. Narumi and Naomi let out a small sigh, seeing how even in one of the most important events in the world Shikamaru showed no enthusiasm. You know, Shikamaru, I think that you might actually die if you were to show some enthusiasm. Narumi said with a small smirk, earning a snicker from her sister and a roll of the eyes from said Nara. Narumi, though, did get a slight twitch when she heard Shikamaru mutter out something about troublesome blondes. Hey, it looks like you guys are taking the exams too. Not like you are going to win, right, Akamaru? Kiba said, nearly shouted in his usual brash style of doing things, earning a small yelp from his canine partner. Shino and Hinata walked up behind him at a much more subdued and quiet manner. Sasuke managed to distance himself from his arguing fangirls and smirked at the Inazuka heir. Of course we are, like I would miss a chance to beat shinobi from all over the continent, dog breath. I will also be winning this whole thing. You don't stand a chance against an Uchiha mutt. Sasuke challenged, arrogantly serving to irritate the young Inazuka, who wanted nothing more than to wipe away the Uchiha's signature smirk. Kiba clenched his hands around the wrists of his sweater as he restrained himself from attacking the Uchiha heir who had just insulted his pride. Hinata looked at her teammate with concern, since she never really liked conflict, especially when it was between comrades. Shino was just Shino. Watch it, Sasuke. It won't be like it was back in the academy, and even then you could just barely beat me. I have gotten better and your pretty little eyes just emerged, meaning you still suck. Kiba retorted with a smirk of his own as he pointed out the simple fact that Sasuke had just activated his Sharingan. Back in their academy days, Kiba was the only one who was able to challenge the Uchiha when it came down to taijutsu practice. Sasuke glared at Kiba, letting his single Tomo Sharingan roar to life, earning a growl from the pharaoh-like shinobi. You know, being so loud usually puts a large target on your backs. That is something that is not recommended for anyone, but especially not for rookies. Oh, and I am Kabuto, by the way. The rookie genin all quieted down and looked over to see a boy with glasses and silver walking towards their little group. Taking heed to his word, the group of unaware genin took a look around and saw a number of shady-looking genin all glaring at their group. Hinata let out an eep and hid behind Shino, while Ino and Sakura, who had just stopped arguing, swallowed lumps forming in their throat. Sasuke shot them a glare right back, and the other genin just looked around the room. Let them glare all they want, me and Akamaru are going to win this whole thing, so it doesn't matter. Isn't that right, boy? Kiba shouted, obviously not bothered by being the center of the attention that others would avoid. Akamaru barked, supporting his master like any loyal shinobi dog would. Kabuto looked at Kiba like he was the stupidest person to ever walk the elemental continent its entirety. Kiba just ignored the look as he was too busy picturing his grand victory in the middle of an arena surrounded by a number of fangirls screaming his name. Kabuto shook his head and turned to face the other shinobi in the group. Take it from someone who has taken these tests 7 times, these exams aren't easy, these even more so since all of the major hidden villages are competing. Kabuto warned them sternly, getting nods from the genin. Except from Shikamaru, who narrowed his eyes feeling like something was off about the silver-haired genin. Sasuke on the other hand scoffed at the elder leaf genin's warning since he had another opinion on the failure in front of him. They probably aren't that hard. You just suck. Sasuke stated with an infuriating smirk on his lips and his arms crossed over his blue clan shirt. Kabuto, who had previously been smiling, frowned at the naive Uchiha. No, these exams are very difficult, but you'll soon learn that, some of you the hard way. Kabuto finished that last part in an inaudible whisper, shooting a menacing smile towards the group's Uchiha. Taking the exams as many times as I have has allowed me to gain information on this year's competitors, which is quite handy really. Kabuto stated for the group to hear as he pulled out a deck of cards that were blank. Now Shikamaru was really curious about this leaf genin who he had never seen before and who had information on all of the competitors. There was just something that even he couldn't figure out. Information? Sasuke questioned, raising an eyebrow with a mild curiosity directed at Kabuto's deck of ninja information cards. Once he was informed that it was information on his fellow competitors, Sasuke let a grin cross his face, believing he could get some advantages on a few people in the tests. Okay, then show me Rock Lee's and Gaara Sabaka's cards. Sasuke stated, remembering how Gaara managed to evade his senses and how Rock Lee beat him handily, not that he'd admit that. Kabuto smiled since the plan was going along perfectly and nodded his head before he began to shuffle the cards. Placing a blank card on the floor, Kabuto put his middle and pointer fingers on the card and released a small pulse of chakra onto the surface of the card. The card spun slowly until the information on Rock Lee came to the surface of the card. Rock Lee has no capabilities in nin or genjutsu due to a disease that has ruined his chakra coils. His taijutsu, though, is at the point where he could match a number of jounin. Part of Konoha's Team 9 consisting of himself, Niji Hyuga and Tenten, with his sensei being Madogai. Team 9 has done 42 D rank and 35 C rank missions. Kabuto read the card, allowing the genin to absorb the information before returning the card to his deck and shuffling. Kabuto pulled out a new card and channeled his chakra into that card as well, revealing the picture and information on Gaara Sabaku. I don't have that much information on him, to be honest, but I can tell you that he, along with his teammates and siblings Temari and Kankuro, have completed 12 D rank, 52 C rank and 1 B rank mission. The most shocking thing, however, is that he has never suffered an injury while in the field. Kabuto finished with a small trickle of sweat going down his brow. The Konoha genin all gawked at that information since they would get small cuts just from D-rank missions. Shikamaru, who had been looking around the room for a certain raven-haired shinobi, found his gaze and gave him a small smirk. Naruto, who knew what he was about to do, just shrugged his shoulders indifferently to the idea. As troublesome as it is, can you give me information on Naruto? Shikamaru asked politely, remembering to avoid using Naruto's surname, effectively avoiding his wrath. Kabuto raised an eyebrow, confused as to why he didn't use the surname but searched through his deck. Narumi and Naomi glared at the shadow user for asking for information on their brother. Kabuto pulled out a card with Naruto's information on it. Here it is. Naruto namikaze uzumaki. Kabuto froze, reading the full name of the shinobi requested, getting everyone in the room to go silent and look at Naruto, who was sitting there with his eyes closed at a table by himself. Shaking out of his surprise, Kabuto continued on reading. Naruto is the only son of the fourth Hokage and has part of his early life labeled as classified. He has shown no taijutsu but is always seen with a katana on his person. That being said, his kenjutsu skills are truly off the charts and he is said to use a style never seen before. Naruto and shown no abilities in nin or genjutsu. He rotates teams when going on missions of C rank or above. Naruto has completed 28 D rank, 16 C rank, 1 B rank and 1 A rank mission. Kabuto almost choked on his own saliva as he read out the last part on the card. Naruto has also only received light cuts during his missions, nothing serious. Kabuto relayed to the silent room, who were all staring at Naruto like he was an extraterrestrial. Naruto sat there unmoving, completely relaxed, as he let Kabuto reveal him to the room of Chunin hopefuls. All of that information is accessible in the records of Konoha. He has either planted a target on me or convinced a few teams to avoid me. Plus he has given them expectations of my skill set which I can shatter if need be. Thanks Shikamaru, you just made my job a lot easier. Naruto sat there with no discernible emotion on his face but was inwardly grinning, much like a fox that had caught its prey. The Leaf Shinobi all stared at Naruto in shock, but in Narumi and Naomi's case, admiration and awe. The Kiri team, who was closest to the only son of the Hokage, all looked at him with respect and slight awe. Chojuro could personally attest to Naruto's skill with his sword, since he had not had a duel like that since his training back in Kiri. Haku, who was surprised that Naruto had shown no skills in the nin or genjutsu fields, had a sneaking suspicion Naruto was using a shinobi's most powerful tool, deception. Kakujio's grin threatened to split his face in two as he thought of what a great fight Naruto could provide him with, never once entertaining the thought that his earlier display would come back and haunt him. The team from Cloud also heard Kabuto's very thin rundown on Naruto's skills and mission history and was generally impressed. Omoi had already started to create a very elaborate but dreadful scenario where he accidentally slaughtered the son of the Yondaime Hokage, leading to the destruction of the ninja system. Karui scoffed, believing she could handle the Prince of Konoha easily with her sword, still bitter from Naruto embarrassing her over a week ago. Samui was thinking about talking to the raven-haired shinobi since he seemed to be pretty cool, not to mention he had the aura of a confident warrior. Yujito, though, was not as lucky to have her thoughts in private thanks to a certain perverted feline that was sharing her body with her. Did you hear that kitten? He hasn't even been seriously injured yet? You need to claim him before some other woman sinks her claws into him. The Nibi purred her memory, still thinking about that dominating presence that Naruto produced. It was an aura that demanded you respect his power or there would be consequences, which was rare for a genin to hold. Yujito cut the mental link with the two tails in favor of staring at the shinobi who was now the center of attention. I don't know if it is because he holds the kyubi, but he just feels so familiar, like we have been friends for years. A plume of smoke suddenly erupted behind the podium in the center of the room, drawing everyone's attention. Out of the smoke came a man with tan skin and one scar running down each of his cheeks at an angle. He was wearing a black trench coat and his leaf headband like a bandana. Alright maggots, quiet down and follow me. This was the proctor for the first exam, Ibiki Marino, a renowned interrogator and head of the Hidden Leaf's torture and interrogation unit. Ibiki led the participants into another room similar to the fist, but with packets of papers on each seat. Ibiki took his position at the front of the room so he could see everything. Find the packet that has your name and shinobi license number on it and sit down. Ibiki ordered of his newest victims, watching some of them scurry around in a panic while others calmly found where they were to be seated. A chunin is something much more than a genin. As a chunin, you may find yourself leading missions where it is your role to look at everything and make swift decisions. It is up to you to be swift but correct. Some of these missions will have limits on time where you cannot just take your time and go through at a measured pace. Know some missions you can find a comrade or an informant captured, and then time will be of the essence. If you are too slow, then you will lose that teammate. This is what we will be simulating here. You have 100 questions there and an hour to answer them by any means. Ibiki smirked at the look of disbelief on most of the genins' faces, believing their task was an impossible one. Oh, and one more thing, if you fail you will never be able to take the exams again and will be an eternal genin. On cue there were cries of protest and the questioning of his authority to do so. I can assure you that each of your senseis accepted the terms of the test when they signed you up for the exam. Now if anyone wishes to leave before the test begins, they can try again next year, but if one person leaves then their team will join them as well. Ibiki watched with an indifferent expression as the room fell deathly quiet. The genin were all looking towards their teammates for some form of silent guidance. Ibiki waited 5 minutes, and in that time 10 teams had left the testing room. Begin! As soon as the word begin left Ibiki's lips, the sound of pencils hitting paper echoed in the silent room, much to the hidden amusement of the proctor. Naruto let his eyes fall onto the piece of paper he was given. Flipping the first page over, Naruto was tempted to immediately start answering questions but decided to tackle the test calmly. Remember to always read the details before rushing in. Patience will save your life many more times than any ninjutsu. Itachi's words echoed in Naruto's mind, calming down all of his apprehension towards what he was being asked. Naruto went over the directive. Directive: you have an hour to complete this portion of the exam. There are 100 questions on this exam. You are to read over each and every question before starting to answer any questions. Once you have done so, then you may begin your exam. Naruto made sure to read over the directive twice more, since all of the pencils hitting the paper over and over again were having a minor effect on him. Naruto calmly read over each and every question just like the directive told them to do. When Naruto got to the final question, he arched an eyebrow and did what the question asked. Turning to the back of the cover page, which he assumed was blank, he channeled some chakra into the paper and watched as a single line message appeared. Naruto read over the message with a blank expression and looked over to Ibiki, who was just looking down at some papers. Naruto quietly rose from his chair, making sure not to draw too much attention and possibly help the competition. Naruto was aware of a few pairs or eyes on him, and the most notable of them were the eyes of Ibiki. Naruto stared at the man for a few moments before letting a small smirk come to his lips, a smirk mirrored by the proctor. Quietly shuffling over to a door where there was another proctor standing. The proctor asked him for the message, which Naruto knew was the message on the back of his paper. The leaf that lies in the sun also lies in the shadows.
The proctor nodded his head and opened the door he was standing in front, motioning for Naruto to follow him into a smaller waiting and rest room. Naruto took a seat and the proctor went back to take his original position, leaving Naruto to his thoughts. I was the first one done, I see. Ibiki created a high amount of tension in explaining the duties expected of a chunin. Then to add on to that, he created a false illusion of being an eternal genin to force them to rush through the test, thus making them forget what he said about looking at everything. Then there is the purpose of separating those who succeed from the common testing area. This way the others are surer if I figured it out or if I couldn't take it and just quit. Also, there is no odd chance that someone says something that will reinforce the belief of the other testers. Naruto watched as a team from Kumo he had not met walked by him, no doubt also figuring out the purpose. Seeing a team joining him in the waiting room also brought another point into Naruto's thoughts. Then there is the challenge of conveying the meaning of the test to your other teammates without alerting Ibiki or the other competitors. Naruto waited for the rest of the hour as the room filled up with other teams who either solved the puzzle or stumbled upon the answer by dumb luck. Naruto saw among the teams were the Leaf Rookies along with Team 9. The teams from Kumo, Kiri, Suna, and IWA were also amongst the group who had passed the first stage. Naruto was glad that from his seated position he was hidden from view of everyone minus Shikamaru, who someone found him and decided to take a nap next to him. The lazy bastard knows I would help out if someone tried to attack him, Naruto thought with a ghost of a smile on his usually stoic face. It was at the 55-minute mark that the window on the other side of the room shattered, putting all the genin on high alert. Well, all of them except Naruto and Shikamaru for different reasons. A moment later, a kunoichi with violet hair and wearing a tan overcoat over a chain mesh. Her choice of clothing made many kunoichi glare at her, and other shinobi such as Kiba and Kankuro stare at her with a perverted grin. Behind her was a banner that read, "The sexy and single Anko Mitarashi, proctor of the second stage." Anko looked around at the number of genin still left and clicker her teeth. Looks like Ibiki is getting soft if he let this many brats get past his test. Oh well, I will have this number halved at least. Anko muttered to herself with a sadistic smile that made some of the lesser genin feel slightly uncomfortable. All right, brats, you have 10 minutes to meet me at training ground 44. If you aren't there, you will be disqualified. Naruto turned to look at the sleeping Nara and nudged him in the shoulder, stirring him. After relaying the message, Naruto performed a shunshin to follow after the snake woman. He knew just where to find training ground 44, as did a majority of the Leaf Shinobi. Naruto and the rest of the genin stood in a crowd in front of a gated-off forest, all with different expressions on their faces. A loud growl came from somewhere deep in the forest that made a few of the genin take a step back in fear. At the front of the group, Anko watched as the final few seconds ticked away. Snapping the watch closed, Anko turned to face the group. All right, that's time. Hello, my little genin, and welcome to my second home, training ground 44, or better known around here as the Forest of Death. Anko projected her voice to make sure that all of the genin could hear her words. As soon as her little introduction ended, there was a shrill shriek coming from the forest as if it wanted to introduce itself to the little genin. This, of course, sent scaring some of the genin to the point where a few thought their heart would pound right through their chest. Anko was smiling at their fear until she saw Naruto looking on unimpressed. Anko took out a kunai from her overcoat and tossed it with decent speed at Naruto, who decided if he should let it hit him. Naruto ultimately decided against it and leaned to his right slightly so that the kunai would miss him completely. Anko, who had already performed a shunshin to get behind the raven-haired shinobi, had to use another kunai to hold it at Naruto's throat. The other genin, who were too distracted by the threat of the forest, were looking at the proctor, who looked like she was about to kill Naruto. "Does my home not meet your expectations?" Anko whispered into Naruto's ear only so he could hear her words. To have some fun with the cool and calm genin, Anko pressed her assets against Naruto's back, her kunai inches from cutting into his skin. Naruto simply arched an eyebrow at Anko's rather blunt actions. The female genin were glaring at Anko for her rather unladylike behavior, while the male portion of the crowd glared at Naruto with jealousy. However, Naruto and Anko ignored them in favor of continuing the little game they were playing. Yes, I do not believe the forest is all that threatening. After all, I was about 5 when I spent a few months in there. Naruto replied in a calm whisper of his own, not even bothered by Anko pressing into his back. Anko thought on his words for a few moments before she recognized the genin she was trying to tease. Glancing at Naruto from over his shoulder, Anko had to admit that the boy from all those years ago filled out rather nicely, to the point where she wouldn't mind having some fun with him. A shiver ran down Konoha's snake mistress' spine, not thinking about the possible intimate time, but because she suddenly felt cold steel against her inner thigh. Anko knew from its positioning that it was against a major artery that could kill her rather quickly. The brat is pretty good, and he's level-headed. He's gonna make Chunin easily. Anko was removed from her thoughts when her danger senses went off. Letting go of Naruto, she turned around to face the person who get behind her. It was Kusanin, who had come up behind the two with the kunai Anko had thrown earlier in hand. The Kusa Kunoichi gave Anko a very disturbing smile and handed the proctor of the second stage. "I was just returning your kunai, Proctor-san," the Kusanin said politely before returning to stand next to her teammates. Anko and Naruto let their vision linger on the shinobi who had managed to get so close to them with a suspicious glimmer in their eyes. Anko put away both of her kunai and returned back to the front of the group to carry out the rest of her duties as the proctor. "Listen up, because I will only be saying this once. To finish this stage you need to recover 2 scrolls. One labeled as Heaven and the other Earth." Anko pulled out one of each scrolls to show the teams an example. "You are not allowed to open up these scrolls until you reach the tower in the center of the forest where you will need to bring the scrolls. The teams from Konoha and Kumo with 4 members will need to gather 2 of each scroll because of the extra member." Anko pocketed the scrolls and pointed over to a booth with a Chunin sitting there with a stack of papers. "To get your scroll and gate number you will need to sign a waiver that relieves Konoha of any responsibility for your probable death in the forest." This got a number of unhappy grumbles from the genin, who were basically called future corpses by a nonchalant Anko. Naruto strolled over to the booth and signed his waiver and was given an earth scroll as well as his gate, number 12. Naruto stood there by himself, aware of the eyes that were on him from the Amigakure team to his right and a different Kiri squad on his left. Naruto heard Anko's voice come over a speaker system wishing the genin luck, which made Naruto snort since he knew that those words were far from sincere. There was a loud buzzer that went off and simultaneously each and every gate opened up. Naruto took off towards where he knew the tower to be from his childhood, not bothering to look for a team because he knew a team would come looking for him, the lone wolf in the competition. It had been about an hour, close to 2, when Naruto sensed someone was following him thanks to a Kage Bunshin that had dispelled itself. Naruto dropped down to the forest floor that was littered with a number of thick trees and shrubbery. It was not even a minute later when Naruto found himself with company on the forest floor. Naruto's side, of course, it had to be an IWA team. Each of the IWA shinobi were glaring at the scorned son of the Hokage with an obvious hatred filling their eyes, blinding them to the truth. The truth being Naruto was not his father and should not be judged for Minato's actions during a war. Who Naruto guessed was the leader stepped forward with an arrogant grin on his face. "Look, it's the son of that damned Yellow Flash. He killed my father, and now I will be able to get my revenge by killing his son. I bet you wish you had a team now, bastard, just so you could run from my revenge." The teen shouted with a bloodthirsty grin, a grin that both of his teammates were sporting on their own faces. Naruto sighed and shook his head at the ignorant fools in front of him that would rather kill him for the Hokage's sins than try and be diplomatic about the situation. Then again, to the untrained, Naruto would not appear to be any place to negotiate with a full team of shinobi. Naruto decided not to stain twilight with the blood of the trash in front of him and would stick to his taijutsu. Naruto usually did not rely on taijutsu since a sword was so much more efficient in killing or dispatching opponents, but the raven-haired shinobi thought this would be a good chance to sharpen his skills. Naruto spread his legs out, widening his base, and let his arms hang at his sides, giving the impression that he had an opening. This was the essence of the Kodo Hoku style that would encourage an opponent to rush in, where Naruto would use sudden movements to deliver punishing but quick strikes before moving again. Earth Release, Stone Gauntlets. The lead shinobi slammed his fists into the ground and slowly retracted them from the ground with a grin. The shinobi fell back into a boxer's stance before rushing forward to close the distance between he and the son of Iwa's greatest enemy. Naruto bobbed and weaved away from a handful of jabs that were aimed at his skull. Naruto glanced behind his shoulder and spun on his heel and gripped the sides of the stone spear that another of the IWA shinobi had tried to stab him with. Naruto used the strength he had gained in his upper arms alone to throw one of the IWA shinobi at the other. The IWA shinobi ducked under his incoming teammate and closed in on Naruto before Naruto could react effectively. Bring back his stone glove. The IWA nin threw a straight punch that Naruto could not block in time. Naruto was taken back behind the strength in the punch and therefore was not prepared to be launched into the tree line back first. The IWA shinobi team waited for Naruto to get back to his feet before continuing the beat down. Naruto, who was pulling himself from the crushed trunk of the tree he crashed through, started to evaluate himself. Looks like I need to up my speed a bit before I will be ready to face a group of shinobi on my own. Naruto crossed his fingers and created a Kage Bunshin, giving it silent orders to get the enemy's attention, which it went to do without hesitation. Naruto's Kage Bunshin jumped out of the forestry behind the IWA shinobi who had yet to attack and kicked him towards the two more eager shinobi. The other IWA shinobi whirled around to face Naruto, but the clone had already vanished back into the trees. Naruto, or his clone, fell for a tree above the IWA team, landing between the three and making them scatter in opposite directions. Something Naruto planned on happening from the beginning. Naruto had the clone lunge at the two shinobi who were closest together and had the clone detonate itself with the great clone explosion, creating a cloud of dust and debris that filled the forest floor. The real Naruto slipped behind the one IWA shinobi who he had kicked earlier and pulled him into the forest line after delivering a knife strike to the back of his neck, rendering him unconscious. That is one down, two more to go. The temporary smoke screen cleared and the two stone-wielding shinobi looked around a little more wearily since they could not find their other teammate in the immediate area. Naruto came back out and revealed himself to the two shinobi from Iwagakure, getting them to tense up and rearm themselves with their stone weaponry. The shinobi with the stone spear charged forward and tried to impale Naruto, who slid to the side so Naruto could pin the spear to his side, allowing Naruto to deliver a backhand to the IWA shinobi hard enough to get him to release the spear of stone and tumble away. The shinobi with rock gloves engaged Naruto again, throwing a mix of jabs and hooks at Naruto's head, who was manipulating the spear to fend off the teen's hands. The IWA shinobi struck the spear in the perfect spot, which caused the spear to snap in half, leaving Naruto holding the two ends. Naruto took a moment and adjusted his grip so that he was holding the jagged ends of the former spear like daggers. The exchange began anew, with the IWA shinobi continued throwing jabs as he bounced on the heels of his feet. Naruto used the spears to stab the IWA shinobi's knuckles, slowly chipping away the nin's rock gauntlets. The IWA nin winced in pain and with a small, determined cry threw a powerful hook to Naruto's jaw that turned his head from the impact, making Naruto spit out some blood. Shaking his head slightly to gather his bearings, Naruto examined the ends of the spear and saw that they were dulled from colliding with the nin's stone-coated hands. Now with a pair of clubs, Naruto weaved through a series of body strikes, finally seeing the pattern behind the Iwagakure genin's attacks, making them easier to avoid. Naruto bashed the clubs on the teen's shoulders, making the boy cry out in pain, and tried to react with a second, wide hook. Predicting the rather generic movement, Naruto was able to block the blow with one of the stone clubs. Knee-lifting the shinobi in the gut, forcing him to lurch forward, Naruto dropped the club and hit the shinobi with an uppercut, taking him into the air. The shinobi Naruto backhanded away got back to his feet and glared at Naruto's back while going through a series of hand signs. Earth release, rising impalement. A row of spikes shot from the earth below, starting at the shinobi's feet and continuing onward towards Naruto's unprotected back. Naruto quickly gathered the necessary amount of chakra and performed a quick substitution with the IWA ning he had sent up into the air. The shinobi had no idea what happened. One moment he felt himself reach the apex of the flight, and then the next he felt a wet, warm sensation where his heart was. The teammate who was holding the spear had a look of terror plastered on his face when he realized it was his teammate at the end of his spear instead of Naruto. Naruto, who had took the IWA shinobi's position in the air, landed on his feet looking at the last of the remaining shinobi with the same blank look. Naruto had utilized a substitution with another person, a tactic not normally used due to the large amount of chakra it takes. To change places with the target, a shinobi would need to have more chakra than her target, as well as be able to temporarily control the chakra to initiate the position change. The IWA shinobi's eyes started to fade before he fell forward on the ground dead, leaving a traumatized backstabber to stare at his handiwork. Naruto slowly walked around the IWA shinobi, who was only staring at his one-time best friend with tears streaming down his face in a state of disbelief. Running his hand over one of the crimson magatama on his gray zip-up vest, Naruto was rewarded with a kunai. Naruto thrusted the black steel right through the shocked teen's back, right through the heart, effectively ending his life. Naruto watched on stoically as the boy's body fell in line with the other body lying there. Naruto, remembering the purpose of this test, scavenged through the pouches both shinobi had on their person in search for the scrolls necessary to pass the test. He found what he was looking for in the second boy's shuriken pouch. Apparently they had both of the scrolls and only needed to get to the tower. Yet they let their ignorance get in the way and decided to try and avenge those who have died in war. Though I must thank them for showing me how much I need to work on my taijutsu. Naruto pocketed both scrolls just in case he needed them for negotiating or just so he could keep another team out of the next round. Taking a moment's rest before heading off towards the tower, Naruto caught something out of the corner of his eye. The leaves above his head were rustling, and that was when a giant spider fell down trying to devour Naruto head first. Acting quickly, Naruto used Twilight to bisect the arachnid, watching as it shrieked and its legs curled before dying. Naruto sighed as he flicked off the creature's green blood. It was just one of those days. Elsewhere in the forest, Team 8 was having its own troubles with a team from Iwagakure. It was the team that Naruto saw entering the village. The Leaf Shinobi were panting softly with sweat running down their foreheads. Each and everyone won their clan jutsu, were just not cutting it against the opponents they were matched up against. Hinata rushed forward in her gentle fist stance and delivered a number of debilitating strikes to the much larger IWA shinobi. Akatsuchi, however, just shrugged of the chakra-enhanced strikes thanks to the earth armor he was sporting. Each blow just hit the armor, but the chakra was not able to penetrate the armor the large man was wearing. You are pretty good with your clan jutsu, lady, but you just ran into the wrong opponent today. That happens sometimes. Akatsuchi said more to himself than Hinata while stroking his chin pensively, earning a large sweat drop from the Hyuga princess. Shaking his head, Akatsuchi moved quickly for someone his size and dropped his fist down on Hinata's head. Hinata, using her natural flexibility, managed to leap back at the last moment as Akatsuchi's fist made a small crater in the ground. Akatsuchi looked up with the same dopey smile he always wore that could easily lull an enemy into a false sense of security.
I am sorry. I do not wish to harm you, but I can't lose here. I still have much to prove to someone. Hinata said resolutely, in one of her rare moments of confidence, her Byakugan active and staring intently at Akatsuchi. The Hyuga heiress quickly closed in on the large man from IWA before stopping in front of him in a stance of the gentle fist. 8 trigrams 32 palms. Hinata cried out, slamming her palms into the shinobi's chest over and over as she nailed half of the man's tenketsu in hopes of shutting him down for good but not killing the IWA nin. Akatsuchi's shoulders drooped, making Hinata believe she had won the battle, but she was mistaken because the next moment she was knocked to the ground by a leg sweep. Hinata looked up in confusion, seeing Akatsuchi standing there with that same smile, like as if he had not been touched at all. That was a pretty tough attack there, Hyuga-san. It actually broke through the armor a few times. You are plenty strong, but I think it is time we finish this. Akatsuchi said in a friendly voice as he put his palms into the earth at his feet. Hinata tried to get up but found that her ankle was twisted from the fall. Earth release, terracotta prison. Hinata watched on helplessly as walls started to rise up all around her in a rectangular formation. There was a loud crash where the walls locked together above her, trapping her in the prison. Hinata felt herself getting weaker and weaker and was left wondering what was happening to her. As if he could read her mind, Akatsuchi's voice came through the walls of the prison. I always get yelled at for explaining things, but if you activate your Byakugan you will see what is happening, so I'll just tell you. The terracotta prison takes the inmate's chakra and uses it to strengthen the walls. Don't worry, I made sure to make the technique end when you go unconscious. Despite her situation, Hinata smiled since she would not be killed in this dreadful forest. Shino and his bugs too were having difficulty with his opponent from IWA due to her fire that just kept melting before they could hit her. Shino was silently blaming himself for not preparing his hive more extensively for this exam as he watched Kuratsuchi burn down another wave of his beetles. Is that the best you got, bug boy? You better hurry up and step it up or I will end up crushing you. The granddaughter of the Tsuchikage taunted the Aburame, who under his sunglasses had a twitching brow from all of the bug-based insults. Let it be known that normally an Aburame will be logical but truly hate when people refer to them as bugs, and even more so when someone speaks of killing insects. Shino raised his arms where another much larger wave of parasitic insects raced at the Iwa Kunoichi. Kuratsuchi, who was too busy laughing at her own puns to avoid the bugs, was soon encased in the chakra eaters. Just when Shino thought his victory was assured, his insects scattered, revealing a log used as a substitution to avoid being a beetle meal. Kuratsuchi appeared behind the bug user and kicked him in the spine, sending him sliding towards her original position. Hey! You just irritated me, beetle boy. Now I am going to burn you until you are a pile of ashes. Kuratsuchi said confidently while pointing a finger at the calm Aburame. Shino said nothing and continued to stare at Kuratsuchi, who sighed in turn. Why am I the one who always gets stuck with the silent types? They are never any fun to mess with. Do not worry, Iwa Nin, this is all over. Ninpo, insect sphere. Kuratsuchi blinked in confusion, but then the lighting around her started to dim. Looking up, the Iwa Kunoichi saw a large sphere of beetles closing in on her completely. Shino watched as she was encased by the beetles he left on the ground the moment before she kicked him away. Shino waited for his beetles to finish the job, lowering his arms and waiting. That was when there was red glow of a human silhouette under the black mass of chakra-eating insects. Shino moved to reinforce the sphere just in case, but it was too late. Yotan, eruption. Kuratsuchi bellowed from under the beetles angrily because this was the second time she found herself under Shino's bugs. The beetles started to launch off of the Iwagakure Kunoichi, each covered by small globs of lava, making them deadly projectiles. Shino did his best to avoid the flaming insects, however he was caught a few times from the loose hanging clothing on his body. Kuratsuchi, who was now free, looked absolutely livid with steam coming from her shoulders from her last technique, which only added onto the Eni visage. Okay, now I am really pissed, Aburame. It is time to finish you off so I can get away from all these damn bugs. Shino did not even notice Kuratsuchi preparing another jutsu. He was so preoccupied with dodging his insects-turned missiles, the numbers obviously coming back to bite him. Water release, water trumpet. Kuratsuchi gathered up water in her mouth and using her hand to shape the water jet, giving it the appearance of a trumpet, shot it towards Shino. Shino looked up at the last moment to see the powerful jet slam into his chest and blast him into a thick oak tree. The pressure continued, pinning him to the tree, his head whiplashing back and slamming into the solid bark, knocking the bug user unconscious. Kuratsuchi searched through Shino's coat and found her desired object, the Heaven Scroll. Kiba, like the rest of his team, was finding he had no luck with the diver helmet wearing Kunoichi from IWA. The Inuzuka heir looked down to see the skin on his knuckles burnt quite badly, which confused him since he hadn't seen a jutsu being used. Kiba had only managed to land a few strikes on the Kunoichi, but they had done minimal to no damage. The ground around them was marked with craters from Kiba's and Akamaru's use of Getsuga, which the Kunoichi avoided each time. Kiba looked over at his Ninken partner to see his white fur covered with dirt and scratches, but nothing too serious. Kiba shook his hands that had a continuous stinging sensation coming from them, which the young Inuzuka couldn't figure out the cause of. Looking back at the foreign Kunoichi, Kiba grinned at her despite the pain he was feeling. "I don't know why you wear that helmet. It hides your pretty, little face," Kiba said in what he thought was a smooth tone of voice, stating what he thought to be a fact. Akamaru let out a small groan, not believing his master would actually try to hit on someone in the middle of a battle. Poor little Akamaru, he probably should put Kiba on a leash. The Iwagakure Kunoichi did not show any positive reaction to Kiba's words. As matter of fact, she showed no reaction. The look on her beautiful face was one of complete and utter boredom. Obviously Kiba was not providing any kind of excitement for her. "You're not my type. I would say sorry, but I'm really not," she said, getting an angry frown from Kiba as she looked up at the sky in thought. "No, there is nothing important about this mutt, not like him," the Kunoichi thought with a longing sigh as she remembered the presence Naruto exuded. In that brief moment she knew the raven-haired son of the Hokage would be someone important. In that brief moment she knew she had to have him. "What did you say, you bitch?" "Oh, stupid Kiba. You never call a woman that, ever." The Kunoichi's gray eyes suddenly had a dangerous glint in them as Kiba's words reached her just after she left her inner workings. A murderous black aura surrounded her, and Kiba thought he saw an Oni mask glaring through his soul, but that was just a killer intent illusion. "What did you say, mutt?" Both humans and the Ninken knew that this question was rhetorical, but Kiba couldn't find his tongue to respond. Akamaru slowly backed away and hid inside of a bush to leave his master to the fate he brought upon himself. The air around the Kunoichi started to shimmer before screams of pain echoed out in the woods. The IWA shinobi team all gathered back together in the place where they originally split up. Leaf's Team 8. None of the shinobi had a mark on them, nor were they even breathing hard, they were just fine. "It looks like your opponents were letdowns as well, huh?" Kuratsuchi asked while twirling the scroll she liberated from Shino, while her teammates nodded their heads to the more confident member of the team. "All right then, let's go find a spot to camp out for the rest of the day and night. We have plenty of time left. No need to rush." As the IWA team went to find a suitable place to camp for the next sun and moon cycle, another presence landed on the floor. It was Kurenai Yuhi, the sensei of Team 8, who had come to collect her unconscious team. The reason was she had seen how a number of large, hungry bears were nearing each of her students. Sure, it would disqualify them, but it was better than them being meals for the animals of the forest. Using a genjutsu to knock out the bears, Kurenai took her team to the hospital for treatment and a rest period. The four-man squad from Kumogakure found themselves in a rather tight situation as they stood surrounded by three different teams. They had found themselves in battle for the better part of half an hour with a team from Amigakure, Takigakure, and Yugakure. And, yes, Yugakure is still a village, deal with it. Each time any of the shinobi from Kumo had a chance to finish off one of the 9 various ninja, they were chased off by another one of the 9 shinobi. Omoi and Karui were clashing with 2 nin from AIM who were using an umbrella blade. Initially they thought their teamwork would win out, but the 2 AIM nin were quite the partnership as well and were holding their own. Samui, who at the start managed to kill one of the AIM shinobi with a sneak attack lightning jutsu, was now facing off with the shinobi team from the hidden waterfall village. Samui's tanto was broken from the water blade technique that the kunoichi from Taki had armed herself with. Samui had managed to fend off the water element using shinobi thanks to her lightning affinity, but the numbers had kept them at a deadlock. Yet if the fight continued as it was, Samui would surely lose because she was only one person, therefore one source of chakra, while they had three. Yujito was the one having the most trouble, however, because of the odd fighting styles each of the Yugikure shinobi had individually. One of the teens had claws made of metal blades that extended out that were very compatible with his natural quickness. The next was a kunoichi who was wearing a large chakram like a large hoop but with a bladed outside. The third shinobi wielded a serrated scythe that looked more designed to cut than stab. Even if Yujito was the jinchuriki of the Nibi, these people still defied conventional fighting methods, providing challenges that were foreign to Kyumo's Hellcat. Yujito had to use the two tails chakra to lengthen her nails into claws of her own to combat the metal claws of the Yugikure shinobi. The few kunai she had tried to use were not long enough to keep up with the eccentric combat she found herself in. Yujito moved to the side, avoiding a slash from the claw-wielding ninja, which she responded to with a swipe of her own, which he blocked with his overhand. Yujito was forced to back-flip away before the chakram-wielding kunoichi bisected her at the stomach. Yujito's slitted eyes narrowed at the two shinobi, focusing on trying to find flaws. It was this focus that left the Kyumo jinchuriki open to an attack. "Kitten, there's one behind you." The Nibi's alarmed shout broke Yujito from her planning. Realizing what was about to happen, she braced herself for the hurt. The Nibi too was trying to recall seeing such fighting styles and slacked on sensing the area around her container. Samui also shouted out a warning, but Yujito only heard Nibi's warning. Samui's rare voice raising got the attention of Karui and Omoi, who looked at Yujito with horrified and startled expressions seeing what Samui was seeing. The two shinobi from Yugikure shared a glance and a smug grin, seeing as they were about to take one of the pesky Kyumo nin out. "Finally, I will get to sacrifice someone to Jashin-sama." The black-haired boy shouted with an insane glee, swinging his scythe down on Yujito's exposed back with his tongue hanging from the side of his mouth and eyes bright with an insane mirth. Clang! The Jashinist's eyes widened when he saw his single scythe blade being held at bay by a blade that was black, white and gray. The teen looked down the blade to see a black-haired shinobi from the hidden leaf was the one who saved Yujito. The sound of metal hitting metal stopped all the fighting going on. Each and every shinobi recognized who Naruto was thanks to Kabuto's information back before the first stage. Yujito and the Kyumo nin were both shocked and immensely relieved by Naruto's timely intervention. "And Naruto?" Yujito whispered out, trying to validate what she was seeing as real. Naruto, who was still holding off the scythe with Twilight without any difficulty, turned over his shoulder and gave Yujito a small grin and a nod. Then Naruto quickly threw his katana up, bringing the scythe with it, leaving the teen from Yugikure open up to the kick Naruto delivered to the teen. With the catastrophe averted, both sides regrouped, staring at each other intently and some hostility. Well, not Naruto, he was just holding Twilight while staring at the strange chain around the Jashinist's neck. It was a circle with an upside-down triangle inside of it, which got Naruto to make a note to look up that term. If there is one thing I can't stand, that is weak people. It is even worse when the weak team together to try and attack something they can't fight on their own. It is truly pathetic. Naruto said in a calm voice that only infuriated the minor village, who saw it for what it was, a metaphor for the minor and major hidden villages. The Kyumo team looked at Naruto from the corner of their eyes just in case Naruto tried something against them as well. That's right, Ningen. There is nothing worse than a coalition of the weak. If anything, they are fun to destroy, and that's all. Naruto mentally nodded in agreement with the tailed beast inside of his mind, since he too shared that sentiment. You think you are so great just because you are a shinobi of one of those great shinobi villages? There is no difference between your 5 and us 8. One of the Taki shinobi challenged boldly. He was tired of being underestimated simply because he was born in Takigakure instead of somewhere like Kumogakure or Konohagakure. He knew of the great shinobi like Kakuzu who could fight with someone like the first Hokage had come from his village. Yet here was a leaf runt talking trash about his home, and it was simply unacceptable. He needed to be shown how weak they were. Oh. You wish of a demonstration then? Naruto asked, arching the eyebrow that was hidden by his hanging bang. While he was speaking to the 8 minor village nin, Naruto was motioning the Kumogakure squad to prepare themselves. Very well, my minor village friends, we shall have a display. Naruto said with no small amount of amusement as he suddenly vanished from the sight of the genin, only Yujito and Samui able to see him. Not even a moment later Naruto was behind of the Jashinist with Twilight ready to strike decisively. And strike decisively Twilight did because it took off the arm the Jashinist was using to wield the scythe. The teen from the village hidden in hot water screamed out in pain as his arm fell to the ground with a thud. Now if he was a good little Jashinist he would be feeling euphoria instead of pain. Bad Jashinist. Omoi and Karui quickly charged at the 2 aim shinobi in hopes of catching them off guard, but they were able to block the swords with their umbrella blades because they were the furthest away from the now one-armed shinobi. Samui also followed her teammates by unleashing a lightning jutsu that sped across the forest floor and shocked one of Taki Nin, who was too busy gaping at the armless teen from Yugakure. Yujito had taken the opportunity presented and released a ball of flames that engulfed one of the 2 remaining Taki shinobi, killing the shinobi. Naruto nodded. In that one moment they were able to reduce their numbers 8 to 5. Shock is truly a powerful emotion. Naruto said, moving away from a claw slash from one of the Yugakure shinobi, moving back towards the Samui and Yujito who were reading for the next exchange. The kunoichi using the chakram was busy trying to bandage the major wound her teammates suffered from Naruto's demonstration. The one responsible merely shook his head because without the mystic palm technique the teen would die from blood loss, bandages just wouldn't cut it. Naruto glanced to his right and saw Samui was staring at the Taki kunoichi and Yujito was looking at the boy wearing claws. Looks like they have chosen their opponents. Ninpo, raining grass shower. The 2 Amigakure shinobi threw their umbrellas into the air where they begun to spin like a top. Picking up speed the umbrellas began to throw off hundreds of little grass senbon that all came down upon Omoi and Karui, who looked at each other and nodded their heads. Cloud style, ultimate beheading. The 2 tan ninja from Kumo shouted in unison as they slashed their swords hundreds of times in the span of the few moments it would have taken for the needles to fall. Soon the needles were all diced and cut into thin sections that fell harmlessly onto the ground. Before the aim nin could catch their umbrella blades Omoi and Karui raced forward, delivered a slash to their midsections, cutting them open and making them drop to their knees. Samui had her opponent on the back foot as well thanks to the elemental advantage lightning had over water. Before with her 2 teammates the kunoichi managed to hold off the lightning user from Kumo, but now without the numbers the Taki Nin knew she was in a losing battle. Samui performed a number of hand signs and held her fingers like a sight that took aim at the enemy kunoichi. Lightning release, shock cannon. A blast of electricity flew from Samui's outstretched hand and coursed through the Taki Nin, making her body spasm before it shut down on her. Yujito was clashing over and over with the shinobi from Yugakure, using her own chakra-infused nails as claws to combat the metal claws of the teen. Taking a slash, Yujito was forced back as the man used his slightly longer arms to keep the Kumo jinchuriki at bay. The longer the confrontation stretched on, the more irritated Yujito was getting. Having enough of the game of cat and mouse, Yujito channeled some of the Nibi's chakra into her legs and vanished from the man's sight. Reappearing behind, Yujito clawed up his back and neck, cutting his skin deep before slamming her heel into the back of his head. The Kumo team regrouped and looked over to where Naruto was, only to find the other 2 shinobi from Yugakure lying on top each other, one dead and the other unconscious with an earth scroll sitting on top of the bodies. Samui looked at her teammates and shrugged, since it saved them some work. Cool.
Naruto had just taken his leave from the Kumo team and his second battle in the Forest of Death when the central tower came into his view. Naruto let a satisfied smile come to his face at the sight of his goal. Naruto was only a few steps from the tower when something from the depths of the forest caught his attention. It was a sudden burst of energy that was cold and dark in its nature, so much so that it made Naruto falter in mid-stride so he could let his vision linger in the general area that the energy came from. Naruto briefly entertained the idea of investigating this negative energy's origins, but ultimately decided against it. Not my problem, but if it becomes my problem, then I will deal with it, Naruto assured himself before entering the tower and walking into the room that was coupled with his gate number. Naruto calmly walked into the room that was empty for the most part except for an inscription on the far wall. The inscription told of the ideas of heaven and earth as related to the body, yet there were sections from each part missing. Naruto glanced momentarily at the heaven and earth scrolls resting in his grip and tossed them to the floor, letting the scrolls unravel. Naruto saw the formula for a summoning on the scrolls before the room was filled with a cloud of smoke. Naruto, acting on instinct, reached behind him and drew Twilight, treating whatever that had been called as hostile. Naruto held his sword arm steady as he calmly waited for the smoke to clear away and the visibility to return. Eventually the smoke cleared and Naruto found himself looking at a leaf nin who was wearing sunglasses with red rims. The man was looking down at the tip of Naruto's katana, which was right at his Adam's apple. Naruto slowly lowered his katana before placing it where it was, on his back. This earned Naruto a sigh of relief from the older leaf shinobi. "Aoba-san, what are you doing here?" Naruto asked politely with his arms crossed over the front of his chest. The only sign of curiosity coming from the teen was the single arched eyebrow while his eyes bore into Aoba with a natural intensity. I am here to explain to you this here inscription. You see, if your body is lacking physical strength, speed, or endurance, then you will not succeed as a chunin. Earth refers to your body. However, that doesn't mean that a strong body and jutsu are all you need. As a chunin, you will also need to make use of your mind, your mental capability that is heaven. Aoba filled in the blanks that were on the wall, which had Naruto nodding his head slowly, since what the older shinobi was saying made perfect sense. An idiot with a powerful jutsu was just as useless as a genius with no strength. Though since I personally have seen your skills in both of those fields, I don't feel the need to tell you what you already know. You are the third team to make it here, and you will find a rest area behind the door to the left. Aoba informed his charge. Naruto bowed slightly to the man in thanks for his words as well as his explanation. Naruto watched as Aoba took his leave before taking his own leave from the room, leaving the scrolls crossed on the floor. Naruto calmly strolled through the common resting area towards the stairs that took the participants to the bedrooms. Naruto slowly walked past two of the shinobi hailing from Sunagekure, ignoring the boy in the cat bodysuit who looked as pale as a bed sheet and the girl with a fan who was currently muttering into her hand, probably insulting her brother. Naruto deduced that the problems were revolving around their jinchuriki of a brother. Naruto was glad that his Biju was not mentally unstable, or else he would be sorely tempted to test the controlling abilities of the Sharingan. Maybe the spirit of the desert has an inferiority complex due to him being the fewest of the tailed beast. That is actually quite hysterical. Naruto wondered why the Kyuubi did not respond to his cynical comment, which the fox seemed to like. Naruto just assumed that the large kitsune was asleep, which seemed to be his second favorite activity behind destroying Uchiha. Maybe one day we can have a spar, Kyuubi. My eyes versus your legendary power. It will be the match of the century. Naruto's blood started to pump just thinking of fighting something as powerful as the Kyuubi, but the young Uchiha knew that would be much further down the road. Believing he could fight the strongest of the tailed beasts as he was would be just downright foolish. Naruto was a few steps from the base of the stairs when two boys came down from the stairs talking to each other rather happily. The boy on the left had short, messy black hair that just covered the top of his Takigekure headband. His brown eyes were trained on the boy to his right, and aside from the red scarf hanging from his neck, there was nothing special about the teen. The other Takigekure shinobi had darker skin than his teammate and had a shaved haircut and green eyes. The only thing really different about this teen was the blue scarf he had wrapped around his neck. That demon bitch thinks she can call the shots on our team? What a joke, she was lucky we let her use the curse of hers to gather the scroll we needed. Red said cruelly while trying not to laugh at the thought of the demon being in charge. The boy with the blue scarf nodded his head, but unlike the shinobi wearing red, he was laughing openly. Naruto, catching their words, stopped at the bottom of the steps as they continued to descend from the second floor. The word demon always made Naruto go to a place few had seen from the raven-haired teen. Yeah, like that would ever happen. Did you see the look on her face when she thought we had accepted her? Oh, I think I saw the tears following behind her as she ran to the training ground. What a riot! Blue said with a smirk of his own as he looked down the hallway at the far end of the large room. The shinobi with the red scarf just chuckled at the blue scarf's words as if they were the first joke ever invented. Naruto took one moment to check the area and made sure they were alone as the two Taki nin made it off of the staircase. Naruto threw the two Taki shinobi against a wall so hard that it created a spider web-like crack in the stone structure and drew the breath from their lungs. The two scarf-wearing teens looked up in disbelief and bewilderment, wondering what just hit them. In that moment, they really wished they hadn't, because they were gazing right into the red-slitted eyes of Naruto. Do you care to repeat just what you said? Naruto's voice was dark to the point where it was almost feral in nature. To make matters worse for the Taki nin, Naruto's body began to release a murderous black aura that shrouded his body. The two Waterfall Village shinobi began to shake like a leaf that was fluttering freely in a strong wind. Normally Naruto would find such cowardice entertaining after hearing their bold words, but when the word demon was attached to another being, Naruto was not one for games. The boy with the red scarf could not find enough resolve to answer Naruto, who looked like the Shinigami in human form. Fortunately for him, the boy with the blue scarf was too blinded by his bigotry to swallow his tongue. Why do you care about that demon? She is the reason I lost my parents and causes the problems in our village. The boy shouted angrily at Naruto, not understanding the difference in the human sacrifice and the tailed beast. Naruto was slowly losing the very thin amount of patience he had for the two foreign shinobi he had at his mercy. Answer my question, filth. Naruto's voice deepened even more, making the boy in the red scarf truly believe it was his time to visit oblivion. The black aura around Naruto started to wave violently and sporadically, slowly threatening to consume the two bigots. The shinobi with the red scarf, in an effort to try and save his skin, quickly answered Naruto before his teammate could infuriate the hidden leaf demon further. She ran off to the training ground to be alone. That's all we know, I promise. Just don't kill us, please. The teen begged as Naruto's slitted eyes pierced through his very soul in an attempt to discern any lie or deceit. Naruto, deeming the boy was telling the truth, called back his murderous intent, but it caused an aftershock that rendered both Takigakure shinobi unconscious against the wall. Naruto's eyes turned back to the calm blue they normally took as he made his way towards the training ground provided for the teams who had completed their task. It only took the Hokage's son a few moments to step into the open training ground. Naruto heard sobbing echoing in the room, all of which were coming from a green-haired kunoichi who had her legs in front of her and her arms wrapped around them in a protective means. Her shinobi gear consisted of a white top that ended midriff with a fishnet armor underneath of it. Her forearms were covered by white sections of the same clothing and a red cylinder-shaped object on her back. Naruto immediately picked out the Taki forehead protector on her right arm. Naruto took a few calming breaths before he tried to talk to the distraught container, because the last thing he wanted was to come off threatening. Naruto slowly walked over to where the green-haired girl was crying and slowly lowered himself so he was sitting next to her. The girl had yet to realize Naruto was sitting there due to her emotional state, something which Naruto took notice of. To gain her attention, Naruto coughed once, which got her to pause her crying, but not to look up from her knees. Go away. I'm not even doing anything to bother you. All I'm doing is being alone like the world seems to like it. The girl screamed at Naruto, though her voice was hoarse from all of the sobbing she was doing at the moment. Why would I want to leave you all alone? It looks like you could use some company to me. Naruto said calmly in the softest voice he could manage as he looked ahead. The girl's body tensed at hearing an unfamiliar voice so close to her. Looking up curious as to who was so close to her, she saw Naruto's face and his blue eyes that were looking straight ahead. Naruto turned his head and his blue eyes locked with her orange eyes, where he flashed a small smile to the girl whose eyes were red from crying. "I'm sure you know who I am by now, so may I ask for your name then, miss?" The green-haired girl simply stared at the teen who she knew was the son of the fourth Hokage, which would basically make him like a prince in Konoha. Why is he even speaking to someone like me? The girl asked herself as she remembered the brief moment her eyes met Naruto's where she saw so much. To most people's, Naruto's eyes were cold and uncaring, but to her, someone who had been scorned her entire life, they were so warm and accepting. There was no malice in those blue eyes. It was those eyes that made her feel something she had long forsaken, hope. "And my name is Fu, but you shouldn't be talking to someone like me. I mean, you are the son of the fourth Hokage and all." Fu's voice was so low that if Naruto was not as close as he was, he would not have been able to hear Fu introduce herself to him. His hand though did twitch slightly when Fu called him Minato's son, but he would let it slide, seeing how depressed the kunoichi was. Why wouldn't I want to talk to someone I can empathize with so deeply? Naruto asked rhetorically as he looked out over the training ground with a faraway look in his azure eyes. Naruto's faraway gaze was due to the rush of memories of how terrible his childhood was. How he had people who were meant to protect him, yet they abandoned him. Life as a jinchuriki was hell, that much was true. The look of unmistakable sorrow in Fu's orange eyes quickly morphed into a look of uncontainable fury. How could this well-off guy even think he could possibly relate to my pain? Fu's fists clenched as her teeth ground against each other as she tried to rein in her rage caused by Naruto's words. How could you even think you know anything about the life that was forced onto me? You know nothing. Fu challenged Naruto's words, not believing someone as important as he could possibly be hated. The truth is that ever since Mihawk had taken Naruto away, the hate-filled populace of Konoha had forgotten about its pariah. Naruto scoffed not at Fu but at the idea of being loved by the parasites that had infested the hidden leaf. That was something Naruto had blamed on Minato, but also on the Nidaime Hokage for creating the civilian council. Naruto always wondered what a militant leader like Tobirama Senju was thinking when he passed that doctrine. Foolish Senju. Naruto's inner Uchiha perked up at the chance to insult their blood rivals. Naruto looked back at Fu, allowing her to see the bitter look in his eyes. At first Fu thought it was directed at her, but upon closer examination she could tell it was something else that caused the raven-haired boy next to her so much pain. This village will never accept me. No, nothing here will change until the older generation is wiped away and the new generation takes its place, clean of useless hate. I will tell you the story of my life, Fu, and then you can make the decision if our lives are comparable. You see, on October 10th, the Kyuubi had attacked Konoha. Naruto ignored the Kyuubi's indignant grunt from the back of his mind. The fourth Hokage then battled with the Kyuubi, had with the assistance of his wife's special binding chakra chains managed to temporarily subdue the Kyuubi. The fourth then did something to ensure the balance of power in our shinobi world. He created two jinchurikis. The two jinchuriki were his daughters, each had a part of the Kyuubi's chakra sealed into them, one with yin and the other yang. This left the Nine Tails with just a conscience, which he needed to seal as well to prevent the Kyuubi from reforming in the future. He sealed that consciousness into me. It does not end there, however. No, then next he revealed to the villagers just what he had done to the Kyuubi. After his small speech, the village hailed the two girls as heroines and princesses. I was scorned, however, as people believed me to be the Kyuubi wearing human skin coming back to kill more of their loved ones. Not even the great Yandaime's name could save me from the hate and the beatings. Naruto then went into detail on a number of beatings he had received from the civilian and shinobi of the village. Some of the things that Naruto told her made her stomach twist and turn, and before she knew it, her cheeks were moist and eyes were misty. I was given the hatred of a jinchuriki, but none of the power that accompanies that deep, endless sorrow. To make things worse, I had a family who was plenty capable of keeping me safe from the mountain of hatred that was crushing me. Eventually, though, people saw my struggle and slowly removed that burden from my shoulders and accelerated my growth to make me what I am today. Naruto ended his tale with a small smile as he pictured the faces of his precious people lingered in front of him. Fu was looking at Naruto in admiration, wondering how he could be so strong under such dire circumstances. He is not lying to you, Fu girl. I can definitely sense the QB coming from the boy. He is like you. Chome the seven-tailed beetle spoke up for the first time since Naruto had shown in the training ground. Fu and Chome had one of the more friendly relationships out of the jinchuriki and tailed beasts. Chome felt an incredible guilt at what his presence had done to Fu, who was such a sweet girl. Chome, why are humans such a bunch of irrational fools? Fu asked sadly as she continued to stare at Naruto, who was sitting there with his eyes closed. Now that my child is something even I do not know the answer to. Naruto, calming his tumultuous emotions, opened his eyes and turned to look at the green-haired kunoichi sitting next to him. Now then, Fu-chan, will you tell me your story? Naruto asked with a small smile. Fu's tan cheeks sported a small blush at having been addressed in such a way that was foreign to her. Never had a boy her age called her that since their favorites were demon or demon whore. The only person to call her that was Shibuki, the village leader who was like an elder brother to her. Managing to kill the blush, Fu gave a small nod in response to Naruto's inquiry. Unlike Konohagakure, Takigakure is always in a battle to continue to fund things such as development and research units due to our minor village status. For that reason they trained me to become their weapon, to protect the citizens of the village. The very same citizens who would rather watch me burn than try to help me. My elder brother figure, Shibuki, can only do so much since he does not have that much political sway since he only recently took over as head of the village. Fu gave Naruto a small rundown of the domestic state of Taki, to which Naruto nodded slightly since the information seemed accurate enough. Since we don't have a large shinobi roster like the other hidden villages, the civilian side of the council agreed to have me try and master the Seven Tails chakra. To keep me in check, they usually keep a seal collar around my neck. I am forced to live in the great tree located at the center of the village away from the villagers. I live on a stipend I get from Shibuki that I can only spend at a few stores that don't have the sign of the beetle hanging from their doors. Fu's voice took a small hint of anger at the mention of the villagers of Taki, not that Naruto would admonish her for that. They then assigned me to a team for these Chunin exams since it would be a good way to show off some of Taki's strength and hopefully draw in more business. I guess I foolishly thought that my team would accept me, but I see how wrong I was. Fu could feel the tears welling up in her eyes again and moved to hug her legs again when she felt something warm around her. Fu then realized that it was Naruto who was hugging her tightly, the action alone making her eyes widen in shock. Never before had anyone been so caring towards her, and here was the boy she literally met maybe an hour ago hugging her. It will be all right, you just need to keep on being strong, Fu-chan. Naruto whispered into her ear, consolingly breaking Fu's emotional dam. Fu let her head drop onto Naruto's shoulder where she began to cry. Naruto just stroked her back as he felt the fabric on his shoulder dampen from the mint-haired Jinchuriki's tears. Naruto held Fu for around 10 minutes until Fu managed to gain back control over her tear ducts. Naruto pulled back from the hug, making Fu miss the contact of his body. Say, Fu-chan, would you like to leave Taki and stay here in Konoha with me? Naruto asked seemingly out of left field, which made Fu recoil in surprise. What? I don't think the council would let their most powerful asset go just like that, Naruto-kun. Fu said honestly, but secretly liked the idea of joining Naruto and living in Konoha and away from the village that SE currently resided in. Chome was also listening on intently since this seemed like the perfect opportunity to get his container away from that cesspit of a village. Naruto's smile slowly changed into a devious grin that spread across his face. To Fu it reminded her of a fox, to Chome it reminded him of when the QB would actually indulge his prankster side. To both container and tailed beast they could only wonder what Naruto was planning in that head of his. Now don't you worry, you'll find out soon enough, Fu-chan, all in time. Naruto stood at the far end of the line of Chunin hopefuls that were all staring at one man, and that man was the fourth Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. All of them except for Naruto, who was more entertained with the singe bang hanging over his eye. Rather than look at the man who was meant to be his father, Naruto pushed the bang from his face, showing his hidden leaf headband. I wish to congratulate all of you for making it through our forest of death while also being able to accomplish your objective. It is now that we will determine the draw for the final stage of the Chunin exams. A few of the more intelligent genin picked up the fact that the yellow flash had used the word draw to describe the final stage and pieced together what he meant. Normally we would have a round of preliminaries to lessen the number of combatants in the tournament, but considering the magnitude of these exams, all of the Kage have agreed to hold the tournament over a 3-day time span where each Kage from the major villages as well as the daimyos would attend to witness this generation's best. The fourth Hokage ended getting wide eyes from the genin who just realized how many powerful shinobi would be gathering in Konoha, aside from Naruto, that is, who just appeared bored. Anko walked up beside Minato holding a box with a hole in the lid big enough for a hand to fit through. When you are called, you will come forth and draw a number that will slate you in a position for the tourney. The Hokage turned to Anko, who nodded her head showing she was ready to begin. Minato called out each genin who drew a number that Anko would relay to a man behind a monitor who was typing away furiously. Naruto slowly walked up when called, and Minato gave him a smile just like he had Narumi and Naomi, but where they returned the gesture, Naruto just walked past him and picked his number. Another handful of genin later and the bracket was filled out. Minato nodded his head, telling the typist to reveal the tourney. Bracket 1. Niji Hyuga vs Akatsuchi. Hintao vs Yujito Ni. Rock Lee vs Kuratsuchi. Gara Sabaku vs Sakura Haruno. Bracket 2. Karui vs Kenkuro Sabaku. Tintin vs Naomi Namikaze Uzumaki. Fu vs Dosu Kinyuta. Kintsuchi vs Yunanera. Day 1 intermission. Bracket 3. Zaku Abumi vs Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki. Finri vs Choji Akimichi. Ino Yamanaka vs Haku Yuki. Kakujio vs Samui. Bracket 4. Chojuro vs Omoi. Temari Sabaku vs Shikamaru Nara. Shirku vs Terra. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki vs Sasuke Uchiha. The genin all searched the giant monitor board for their name and who their opponent would be, and once they did, the genin all tried to identify who that opponent was. Sasuke found Naruto's apathetical gaze and smirked confidently at the Hokage's scorned son, who just looked on impassively. "Hey QB, do you want to see me mess with an Uchiha?" Naruto asked, full well knowing the answer he would get from the mass of chakra. "Ninjin, there is nothing more that I like than seeing the suffering of an Uchiha." The QB was just about to take a nap, but he was now wide awake, not wanting to miss a chance to see an Uchiha's pain. Naruto nodded and closed his eyes and slowly opened them in a perfect replica of a look Itachi would always give him. Sasuke recognized the look from the face of his traitorous brother and growled as the curse on his neck spread slowly. Before Sasuke could attempt to harm his opponent, Kakashi appeared behind his pupil and placed a hand on his shoulder before body flickering away to seal off the curse mark. Naruto and the QB wore identical, amused grins that showcased their fangs quite menacingly. Chojuro, who at that moment spared a glance at Naruto, shivered as he mentally imaged one of his senseis grinning at him like that. Minato still had more to say, coughed loudly to grab back control of the room as well as to quell the quiet ruckus that had sprang to life. "This tournament will begin here in Konoha in exactly 1 month's time. This will give you time to hone some of your skills as well as give the Kages and Daimyos proper time to travel. You may stay here to train or return to your home village, but know this: if you are late, you are automatically disqualified no matter how much potential you may have. Timing is essential in the shinobi world. Good luck to you all." With that, Minato had vanished in a yellow flash, leaving the genin who had not seen the technique in awe. He did that on purpose. Naruto groaned silently and walked away, clearly not impressed like the other genin that were not blood relatives of him. Naruto was aware of the few pairs of eyes that were on him as he left, but he paid them no mind. He was tired of being around so many people. He needed his solitude. Narumi and Naomi planned to follow them, but were quickly confronted by Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji, who asked them if they wanted to go and try to find Team 8. The sisters looked over to where Naruto was walking and found nothing. Sighing, they nodded their heads. Naruto walked down the streets with his hands buried inside the pockets of his zip-up vest, quickly closing in on his apartment. That was when a wonderful aroma invaded his nostrils that forced the young Uchiha to halt mid-stride. Turning to his left, Naruto looked upon one of his most favorite places in Konoha, Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto paused his journey and started to slowly approach the ramen restaurant. I guess I can treat myself before diving into the deep end with my training. Naruto walked past the hanging cloth that gave the stand some privacy and silently sat there as Tucci started to make some ramen. Naruto cleared his throat, gaining the ramen maker's attention. Tucci paused the making of his next batch of ramen and turned around, his polite smile already in place for the customer to feel more welcomed. "Hello, Hame. Oh, Naruto, my boy, how are you doing?" The old man asked his favorite customer, who he hadn't seen in a while, to which Naruto gave him an apologetic smile. "Well, I have been very busy as of late." Naruto started off only to have a bowl of miso ramen slid across the counter. Naruto blinked and looked up questioningly, where he met Tucci already motioning for him to start eating. Naruto nodded with a grateful smile on his usually stoic face. Breaking open the chopsticks, Naruto uttered a quick thank you before he dug into his hot food. Naruto sighed in pleasure as he swallowed his first bite. "So good." "Dad, did I hear you say Naruto?" A more feminine voice asked from in the kitchen section of the ramen stand. Soon the owner of the voice, I am, the ramen maker's daughter, emerged out of the kitchen. Her face lit up upon seeing Naruto sitting there in the stool. Wasting no time, she took off at a speed that would leave a Chunin green with envy and locked Naruto in a warm embrace. Thankfully, Naruto emptied his first bowl, so Iam's rather sudden action only rattled the empty bowl. Naruto let out a small grunt, but managed to keep himself perched atop the small stool despite Iam's weight crashing against him. Iam eventually released the young Uzumaki from her exuberant hug and stared at him expectantly. "Where have you been, mister?" Naruto's whole body screamed danger as he gulped down the lump in his throat. Iam had a hand on her hip and a ladle in her other hand that, accompanied with the stern look on her face, reminded him of the older sister he saw her as. Naruto thought about escaping, but knew that would only make the civilian girl even angrier than she was now. Naruto decided to bite the bullet and tell them the truth of what he had been doing. Naruto then went on to explain how he had been placed on his own team and had to take an influx of missions to fulfill the requirements needed to participate in the Chunin exams. Naruto then told them of what he had experienced during his last trip into the Forest of Death. Tucci nodded his head, since he had heard many things about a shinobi's way of life from idle chatter at his establishment. Iam still looked doubtful, but in the end relented, only giving Naruto a warning about what she would do if he disappeared ever again. By the end of the talk, Naruto had a newfound fear of cast iron pots. 2 days after Stage 2, Konoha. Look at all these insignificant worms smiling at me. Just their looks make me want to empty my stomach. Naruto said to himself as he ignored the smiling elders who would walk by him, and the few times they waved, Naruto directly frowned at them, to which they shrugged it off as a young man having a bad day. "You should let me destroy them then, Ninjan. I won't devour them because they will leave a bad taste, but destroy, that I can do." The Kyuubi voiced his opinion, no doubt with a very menacing smirk of his face. Naruto thought about it for a few moments before sighing and shaking his head negatively. "I can't do that, otherwise I'd have the Hokage and the council on my head." "Don't worry, once your chakra returns you shall be allowed to stretch your legs, Kyuubi," Naruto assured his tailed beast as he continued to walk calmly down the street. Naruto's forward progress was stopped when a shadow overtook his body, making Naruto look up to see what it was that was stopping him. The man in front of him was dark-skinned and had a muscular build that could make him seem very imposing. The man's right shoulder contained the kanji for iron, and a bull's horn was tattooed on his left cheek. The man wore oval-shaped sunglasses and the typical Kumo flak jacket, but this one only went over one shoulder. The man had a red, rope belt around his waist and a white scarf around his neck. The man carried 7 swords with him, and Naruto could tell by his presence that the man was no joke. Hachibi. And now it all made sense, because in front of him stood the jinchuriki of the 8-tailed octopus ox, or an Ushioni. This was the man who had managed to gain prefect control of his tailed beast to the point where he could transform willingly into the Hachibi while still remaining in control. These feats were what earned him the title of the perfect jinchuriki and one of the world's most dangerous shinobi. Naruto was curious as to why this man stopped him for no reason, it would seem. "How may I help you, Kumo shinobi?" Naruto asked blankly as he took a step back to put some space between him and his fellow container for safety's purposes. No, that won't do, Mr. 9. You have to call me Hachibi-sama, and we will be all fine." Killer Bee sang in a horrendous rap that made a few bystanders who heard it faceplant due to the sheer terribleness. Naruto's eyes narrowed at the larger man for his annoying speaking pattern and silently hoped that it was a one-time thing. "I can't believe this. You are an idiot, Bee. Not only did you give out the fact that we are a jinchuriki, but you also made yourself look like an idiot, which makes me look like an idiot." The 8-tailed Ushioni shouted in anger and disbelief at his aspiring rapper of a container. "Hachibi, why you got to hate? My rapping skill is of the highest rate." "That's not going to happen," Naruto stated plainly as he looked into Bee's sunglasses with an impassive gaze. "I take back my thoughts from earlier. Sure, he may be powerful, but he is also a joke." Naruto mused to himself while silently thanking Kami for not putting him around the eccentric foreigner in some off chance he had found Naruto while off on a mission or something like that. "Ningen, I have never been more happy than I am now that I was sealed into you instead of that idiot." The Kyuubi could only imagine what his brother had to go through having to listen to that incessant form of speech each and every moment. "Fool, you better respect my rapping skills so mean before I knock your head off clean. Then you won't be so praying." Killer Bee took a more aggressive tone of voice, as it always did when someone outside of his brother or the Hachibi insulted his passion. Naruto quickly discerned the threat in the man's idiot speak and tensed himself in case the larger tanned man tried to attack him. "Bee, what are you doing threatening this boy? He is the Hokage's son, and any fight will draw all of Konoha's forces down on you. My help or not, you can't beat them on your own." Killer Bee's eyes widened behind his glasses when he realized what that meant, and if he did not die, then his brother would surely give him his iron claw. Bee managed to keep a grimace from flooding his face at the phantom pain of his brother's claw of pain. Bee looked back at Naruto, who was prepared to fight if need be. Then Bee started to laugh, which confused Naruto, leading him to question the Kumo-nin's sanity. "Sorry about that, yo. I am just going to go," Bee said quickly before hurrying past Naruto, muttering a few things Naruto didn't quite catch. Naruto slowly turned around to make sure that the Kumogakure Jinchuriki was actually going to leave and not attack him from behind. Naruto watched as he spoke aloud while waving his hands around in weird gestures. The people on the street cleared to one of the sides, hoping to avoid catching whatever was wrong with the rapping man. Naruto resisted the urge to palm his face when he saw the man pull out a book labeled rhymes and began to write in the book. Naruto released a breath in an attempt to forget the strange encounter with Kumo's Killer Bee. "Ningen, if you ever begin speaking like that, I will personally rip this seal away and slowly skewer you with each and every one of my claws." The Kyuubi warned Naruto as he glared at the Space Killer Bee, once occupied trying to forget what he just heard. Naruto nodded his head, since that would be something Naruto would fully support. "You have nothing to fear, Kyuubi, for if I ever begin to rhyme my words purposefully, then I will gladly present my Sharingan to you to crush." Naruto promised to never be such an idiot, and if he was, then he would gladly visit the Shinigami. "Now that is over, I need to begin my training for the Chunin exam finals. It is best to use the Shunshin there to avoid any more useless confrontations." Naruto held a single hand sign and soon his body exploded in black crow feathers, shocking the civilians who were passing by. Naruto reformed from a murder of crows inside of the study inside of the apartment complex he had come to own in the red light district. I don't see why you feel the need to train more just for the runts in these exams of yours. The QB had not had to train in something in centuries, so the idea of training was out of his realm of understanding. Naruto sighed as he sat behind his desk pulling out a book and putting it on the desk. I am not training for the other participants per se. I am continuing to train so I will not be overtaken by any unforeseen threat that may come this way. Getting no response from the mass of chakra sealed inside of him, Naruto looked at the book that he'd placed on the desk. The book's bindings were a deep crimson color with a purple uzumaki swirl emblazoned in the front cover. Naruto had meant to take a look at the book ever since he had claimed it, but with all of the work he had on his plate never got the chance. The first 100 pages or so were a general history as well as some first-hand accounts of a few events in history. There was something that made Naruto glance down at himself, but he mentally pushed that back in favor for reading more of his book. Naruto skimmed through another 50 or so pages until something caught his interest so much so that he had momentarily let go of the book to try and comprehend what he had just read. Taking a deep breath, Naruto read over the information once again and found that he was not mistaken in what he had read. Something like that is even possible? Naruto questioned more to the air than anything else. The QB who was reading through Naruto's eyes was also quite surprised by what he had read. It seems unlikely, but with things like that you never know until you try. The QB admitted with some amount of respect for what was accomplished in some of the things done in the book. Naruto nodded his head and began to read with a new sense of purpose in his azure eyes. Near the borders of the land of fire and earth. What are we going to do about this, sensei? A man with charcoal black eyes asked while staring down at the piece of paper that was resting on the counter between the two cloaked figures. If the information on the paper was accurate, then what may happen could be very disconcerting to say the least. I know you wanted to visit the Chunin exams to check on our student, but these reports, if true, are quite concerning. A sharp voice said before taking a sip from his cup of tea, getting a nod from the person next to him. The man's yellow eyes stared ahead at the road, which was now muddy with the rain. I agree, sensei. As much as I would like to see his progress since he has left our tutelage, we need to check on these rumors. A softer yet equally serious voice replied as the owner looked up into the dark sky from under the small travel station they were resting at. These two men who were sipping tea were two of Naruto's three senseis, Dracula Mihawk and Itachi Uchiha. Both men were making their way back to Konoha with all intent on checking up on Naruto, but a certain piece of information altered those plans. The report from one of Mihawk's informants read of two men who were wearing black cloaks adorned by red clouds. While not as large as Jiraiya's spy network, Mihawk's was just as effective when he needed to know something. What bothered the hawk-eyed swordsman was who was underneath those cloaks. From the report they were given, Itachi and Mihawk had only just missed the two shinobi who were in the center of the report. It seems that we will need to visit Tsuchi no Kuni once more, Itachi. Are you ready to go? Mihawk asked, seemingly not even bothered by the seasonal downpour that was currently soaking the area. Itachi nodded his head slightly, and with that the two traveling shinobi paid for their drinks and walked out into the rain wearing white cloaks with a deep green stripe bisecting the cloak. 1 week after Stage 2, Konoha.
Naruto was sitting in the center of Training Ground 7, having just finished going through the katas for his sword style. It was something Mifune had instilled into the young swordsman's head. Mifune would always say that to keep one's blade as sharp as their mind, practice was always needed, or else the skills attained would deteriorate. Naruto knew that katas could only take him so far, so he asked Nico if she could spar with him once a week. Yugao agreed, since with the finals right around the corner, all ANBU who were not on long-term missions were given leave so they could keep the village's safety uncompromised. They had already spared once, and Naruto could see how happy Yugao was to actually have a duel with someone. Naruto and Yugao both knew that the number of skilled swordsmen in Konoha could be counted on one hand. Naruto knew of only one proficient with a blade besides Yugao, and his name was Hey-8 Gecko. Naruto recalled that when he mentioned that name Yugo would tense momentarily, but Naruto did not pry. Naruto had been forced to train in his basement while working on his ninjutsu due to the prying eyes of the village. Naruto was thankful Mihawk had taught him how to use reinforcement seals, otherwise the whole complex would have collapsed down on him during his first training session. Naruto opened his eyes feeling 5 new presences on the training ground that was just empty aside from him. Naruto's blank eyes found themselves staring at Minato, Kushina, Narumi, Naomi, and Jiraiya. Naruto slowly reached for Twilight, which was lying on the grass next to him, before standing up. "What is it?" Naruto asked, already knowing the answer, but decided it was best to be civil with a man who could control his entire shinobi career. Kushina sighed sadly at her son's distant behavior, which deep down she knew herself to be the cause of. Naruto looked at the group waiting for any of them to answer his question. Kushina was the first to act and pointed at the large man with white hair who was holding an equally large scroll in one arm. "The pervert and the rest of us would like for you to sign the Toad contract." Kushina said, hopeful this could be a chance for her to finally start to make amends with her wayward son. That was the sentiment shared by each person in their little group, yet sadly Naruto still wouldn't even smile at them. He looked at them like he was looking at an enemy, and to him they may as well be. Jiraiya scoffed at the redhead's words, and some weird music began to play, confusing everyone minus Minato and Naruto. "I am no mere pervert, Kushina. I am the world's greatest pervert. I am a super pervert." The music came to a climax with a loud trumpet sound, and then the field was deathly quiet, with each person looking at the Toad Sage. Minato had just face-palmed at his sensei's less than desirable behavior. Kushina and her daughters were glaring bloody murder at the self-proclaimed world's greatest pervert. Naruto just stared at the Toad like he would any other time they had encountered each other. Naomi spoke before Naruto could even manage to respond with a reply of his own. "Yeah, Nisen, you should sign the Arrow Idiot's contract, that way we can all train together." The excitable redhead said with a shimmer of hope in her eyes at the thought of having her big brother back. Narumi smiled at her sister, already knowing her wish was the same as Naomi's wish, though Narumi just couldn't see Naruto as a brother anymore. It didn't feel right. Naruto was something else to her. He was like an engine that wouldn't stop, and that belief was only furthered when she read that letter all those years ago. Naruto's impassive blue eyes softened for a moment as he looked at his sister, who looked back imploringly. Back when he was a child, Naruto would easily blame his sister for his suffering, but as he grew he realized that her actions were not meant to hurt him. She was just acting like any child who would want attention from their parents. "I can't sign the Toad contract, for I have already signed a contract with the Crows and their leader," Naruto replied easily, since it was the truth and he had no desire to break the gift given to him by Itachi. Minato smiled at his son, since he already knew that and had come up with a plan just in case Naruto had said that. "That's fine, Naruto. We already spoke with Gamabunta, and he said he had no problem if you signed the contract to go along with yours. All you have to do is clear it with the head of the Crows." The rest of the group nodded, since it was not easy to get the prideful Toad to agree to share a summoner with a species he saw as inferior. Not that they would tell Naruto he said that. "I still must decline, for I have already discussed this with the leader of the Crows and he has agreed, but only with the summon animal I am naturally aligned with, which I have yet to discover what it is," Naruto explained calmly as he looked up into the sky and saw a shadow flicker over the sun briefly, but showed no visible reaction to the anomaly. Kushina nodded in understanding, since she realized pushing Naruto only made him push back much harder. The 4 holders of the Toad contract, however, were showing varying levels of disappointment with Naruto's decision to decline the contract. Jiraiya, and all his pride, could not believe that Naruto could turn down a chance to align himself with the Toads, but also by proxy turn down being trained by the fabled Toad Sage. "Kid, there are a million people who would kill to be offered what I just offered you. This is your chance to train under my wing and become something feared," Jiraiya explained seriously as he stared into Naruto's glacial eyes with a questioning glint in his eyes. Naruto just stared right back, with the only notable facial reaction was the slight downward twitch of his lips. "Perhaps you are right, however I am not one of those so-called millions. I can achieve what I need to without your help." "That goes for you as well, Kushina, Minato. You have nothing I wish to learn. Not the Rasengan or even the Hiraishin. Now if you will excuse me, I have something that needs my attention. Naruto then disappeared beneath a shroud of falling crow feathers, leaving the 5 shinobi there speechless. With good reason too, since it was not every day that someone refused to learn some of the most feared jutsu in the world. But Naruto was far from normal. Kirohane Forest. Naruto opened his now Sharingan red eyes as he looked around the area he found himself transported to. Naruto knew this place to be Kirohane Forest, which was the home of the crow summons. This place was only known to the crows as well as Naruto. Not even Itachi knew of this place because he had declined to train further with his summons, content with using them solely for his illusions. On Naruto's first visit, he questioned the crow patriarch why he was unable to deactivate his dojutsu. The head crow informed Naruto that the spiritual energy in the forest was so great that Naruto would find it impossible to deactivate his Sharingan. Naruto gazed out at the boundary that separated the forest of the crows and another forest, and the difference couldn't be any more prominent. The forest Naruto was looking at was lush and vibrant and overall bustling with life. Kirohane, on the other hand, looked like a desolate land rather than a forest, but that was by design. The trees were nothing more than decaying bark structures devoid of life, while the dirt was a dark gray with no nutrients to support the trees. This marked the land and told other species to stay away. Naruto knew that the areas adjacent to Kirohane Forest were what feed the crows. Naruto walked calmly deeper into the dead forest as the moon that always shone down on the forest illuminated his path. That was another curious thing about the forest, was that there was no daytime, just night. The moon was infused with more spiritual energy than was the sun, so it always illuminated the forest. Thanks to the great amounts of spiritual energy saturating the air, the forest was also kept warm by the essence of the energy. Basically, over time the forest adapted itself to have no need for the sun, something Naruto found fascinating. Naruto finally found what he was looking for: living trees in the dead woods. These trees were where the crows lived in the forest because, unlike the other trees, they were alive and certainly thriving. The crows, while not a very large clan in comparison to the other summons, but they were extremely close-knit to each other and their summoner. That was what Naruto valued the most, was their loyalty, something he had been deprived of during his childhood. There were a total of 20 living trees clustered in one area of Kirohane Forest, each of which were unique thanks to the pigmentation of their leaves. These trees were not normal, however. Each tree was the size of Konoha's Hokage monument in both height and width. Naruto continued on towards the great tree that was in the center of the 20-tree cluster that was specialized thanks to its gray leaves. Naruto waved to a few of the smaller crows who had yet to learn how to speak, while giving a few of the elder crows a respectful nod. Naruto walked into the tree that was hollowed out with stairs created for this very purpose. Naruto climbed up to the top, where a rather large crow was perched high above the forest floor. The crow was wearing samurai armor from the Edo period that covered his wings and body. The armor was a deep blue, almost purple. This was the head of all crows, Shokei. "You have called for me, Shokei-san?" Naruto asked of his boss summon, calmly refusing to bow like he did every time he had visited the head of the murder. At first this led to a very tense situation, but Naruto cleared that up by saying being submissive did not equal respect, it showed fear. After that, Naruto had earned the large crow's respect and was never asked to bow before him again. The crow opened his void black eyes and stared down his summoner, who to his credit showed no sign of discomfort from being examined so crucially. The crow flapped his wings once and let out an ear-rattling caw. "Yes, I have, Naruto. I believe this is the right time for you to bond yourself with one of the young crows so that they may become your familiar in the future." The old crow's voice was a tad on the shrill side, yet still held a tremendous amount of power behind it. Naruto let his eyes widen momentarily in surprise but nodded his head. The first time Naruto was told of this process, Naruto questioned when he could perform it, but was told that all would work itself out in time. "For every year a human grows, we crow shinobi crows grow too, so your new partner will soon be able to assist you. Now there are a number of suitable candidates, you may choose Fr-. Shokei was cut off when the leaves above their heads started to rustle violently and a few weak caws were heard. Not a moment later, a small crow came crashing in through the gray leaves, heading straight for a painful collision. Naruto's Sharingan quickly deciphered the path the crow was going to take and quickly leapt up and caught the crow against his torso. Shoukei looked irritated at being interrupted by one of the young ones, but that look was erased by the look on Naruto's face. "What is it, Naruto?" The old crow's natural protective instinct soon took over the irritation. "There is quite a deep gash on this young one's underbelly," Naruto said, and without looking up at Shoukei, Naruto activated the mystic palm technique and began to close up the wound. Now, while not being a veterinarian, Naruto was able to close up wounds like this one without much of a problem. It just took longer than a trained professional. The crow opened its eyes when the pain subsided and looked up to see Naruto smiling at her. "There you are, little one, all better now," Naruto said, smiling as he gave the crow her chance to fly off, but to Naruto's surprise she just hopped onto his head and sat there in his black locks. Naruto looked up with a smile and gently ran one of his fingers along the top of the crow's head, gently earning a happy caw from her. "I think I have found the one I would like to create a bond with," Naruto informed Shoukei with a smile as the crow jumped down and perched herself on Naruto's left shoulder. Shoukei nodded with a small smile as he looked at the two interact with each other. Shoukei recognized the red stripe on the young crow's bottom beak as the mark of one of the great warrior clans. Her father was the last of the subsection of the clan that retired from the active army and settled down with a non-combative crow. This was their daughter, who Shoukei knew would reach great places with the right partner, and hopefully Naruto was that partner. "Okay, Naruto, that is fine. To complete the soul link, the young one on your arm must ingest a drop of your blood. The spiritual essence in your blood will then link your two souls. The bond will only break in the event that one of you should perish." Naruto nodded his head and bit down on his thumb hard enough to break his skin. Naruto positioned his thumb over the crow's mouth, allowing her to drink his blood. The Kyuubi quickly healed the wound, and Naruto felt the tip of one of Shoukei's wing on his head and the tip of the other and the young crow. Secret crow art, soul link. Naruto felt that something inside of him was reaching out for something to connect to, and when he thought it wouldn't work, he felt a surge go through his body. "So this is what it feels like to be linked." Naruto heard a feminine voice from his side and turned to look at the crow with a raised eyebrow. The crow looked right back at Naruto with her own black eyes before Naruto finally spoke. "You can talk?" Naruto asked curiously, since only moments ago all he could hear from her caws like any other crow. His question seemed to amuse his new familiar, if her giggling was any indication. "Of course I can. I have always been able to, but only other crows and those we have been linked with can understand us. My name is Suise, by the way, Naruto." Naruto was about to reply when he saw something that made him pause in his tracks. Suise's previously empty black eyes changed to a burning red, and slowly 3 tomo filled each eye. Naruto blinked a few times, as did Suise, who saw her eyes reflected in Naruto's headband. Needless to say, neither Naruto nor Suise knew what was going on or why she now had the Sharingan. "Ah, so it seems like the blood from your body has changed Suise as well, how interesting. Since Itachi had never linked with a crow, this is the first time a link had been formed at all, especially with a shinobi with a Kekkai Genkai." Naruto paused and analyzed the situation as well, and that was the best and only explanation that even made sense. "Now then, why don't you two go back to Konoha and get acquainted with each other? Off you go, shoo." Then came the simultaneous reply of Naruto and Suise. "Stupid bag of feathers." As they were brought back to Konoha, the old crow broke into a fit of laughter. "They are perfect for each other.